What up, y'all? I'm Steve with Elev8, and today we have a really cool Elevated 8 with rose glass art. Man, this girl is doing some crazy stuff with this plasma, electrical stuff. Her art is crazy. I can't wait to do this interview. But before we do it, I want to mention we got this really awesome Elev8 Ambassador program. Man, it's helping to build my dream of Elev8. You get to earn some cash, you get to earn credits. There's no program out there like it. It's like the Avon for our industry, or the Mary Kay for our industry, or the Scentsy for our industry. Go check it out, Elev8 Ambassadors. You can be an Elev8 dollar and Elev8 Gents. Also, I want to let you know we got a really cool thing. If you got a little extra cash in your pocket and you feel like you need to donate it to Elev8 Veterans. It's our 501c3. And we're a real deal, really cool program. Teresa, she puts on some amazing stuff, does a lot of helping with people, and it's to help rehabilitate and reacclimate war soldiers back into society. And go check it out. Anyways, let's get into this interview with Rose Glass Art. Well, welcome to Elevated 8. We have Rose Glass Art here, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Hell yeah. So the first question is, how did you get into this crazy glass thing called glass blowing?
Yeah, what's super cool is I've always loved collecting stuff ever since I was a kid. I used to collect little like glass figurines and stuff. And then when I was in high school, I started collecting like pipes, and I don't know if I should say that I smoked that young, but I did. And yeah, I ended up going to Mass Art in Boston because I knew they had like a glass program, and I've always wanted to try it. And it was like I was at like orientation, and I met this girl who was like, oh, if you really want to get into glass blowing, don't wait around here at the college. Go down the street to Diablo Glass School and apply for an internship. And so that's how I got into it. I started interning at a glass studio my first couple weeks of college, and yeah, I had been working there. I still work there, actually, teach classes there sometimes.
Well, that's really neat. Like you hear that stuff about, education is key to life, but should you go to college or should you get a skill? And there you are going to college for an art thing, but you knew you wanted to be a glass blower. So in the sense, why go to college when they can teach you all this stuff that you can learn on the internet, but they can't teach you blowing glass? And you wanted it and made it happen. That is so awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool because well, everybody approaches it differently, but there's two very different approaches, in my opinion, with people who kind of focus primarily on craft and people who focus primarily on art. And I'm of the mindset that you can't make good art if you don't have good craft. I mean, there's people selling janky shit all the time, like, good for you,
but it's janky, and that's just it. You have to wax on, wax off. You have to get the technique down, and when you have that, you can make beautiful art.
Exactly. Yeah, it helps if you got a Mr. Miyagi, walking you through it too. But but yeah, I think you need both for sure.
And right, and then so you're an artist, but you find this group of ignorant people, and you're able to take advantage of them. Is that good or not? Because as those ignorant people grow in art, they're going to eventually realize you didn't have the technical ability, and your art wasn't as artful as they thought it was, I imagine. And
yeah, I also think, especially like with glass blowing, like if you really want to make like a heady, like if you want to make like this, the headiest pieces, like the people whose work I admire the most, like Robert Mickelson, Micah Evans, like people making like, pipes that look like nothing like pipes, like you couldn't do that well if you didn't have the craft, but also you need to have the artistic mindset in order to even, approach designing something like that.
So if you had to have one, would you rather have the gift of being able to grasp the technical part, or would you have the gift of creating the art? Because I feel one of the other, you can always like morph in and grow.
Yeah.
But only
yeah, it's tough. That's a real tough question. I don't know one I would want Well, I probably the artistic mindset, because I do think, I mean, you know, I ended up getting a degree from mass art, and I think one of the greatest things about the degree that I gained from it is creative problem solving. That's what, like, when you get a bachelor's in fine arts, you're really getting a degree in creative problem solving, because you know like if you go to become a doctor or a chemist, like there's a right and a wrong answer. With art school, there's no right and wrong answer. You kind of have to come up with the right or wrong answer, and you're going to hit problems along the way. And you can come to a problem and say, oh, this is a technical thing, I can't get around it. Or you could say, well, how could I get around it? It's being that open-minded, being willing to like tackle problems, even if the answer is, clear cut.
Yeah, I like what you said there. Like if you're too analytical, you're stuck in a system. If you're too creative, you're just a free bird. So you kind of almost got to have like the two things, and know that you have a system, because glass is all systematic, but it's tons of problems and figuring out your ideas. And I don't know.
Exactly. No, seriously, that I think when I'm working, one of the biggest problems that I have is, there's tons of ways to get from A to B, right? And you know, you can come up with 3 or 4 ideas on how to get there, but what's going to be the best way? What's going to make the most sense? What's going to, prevent you from running into the most problems, so that's yeah, it's designing around that can be really tricky.
Yeah. How did you get your glass name?
So yeah, my name is Rose Glass Art. My middle name is Rose. And so it sounds better than Angie's Glass Art, I think. But yeah, no, my middle name is Rose. And when I was a kid, we had rose bushes planted in our backyard, one for me and one for my sister. Um, and the thing that I like about plants, it's sort of the same thing I like about glass, actually, is that both plants and glass, people perceive them as being really fragile. And in a sense, they are, but they also have like an insane durability. Like you can stomp all over a plant, and like next week it's going to grow back. And glass, everybody's worried about, oh, is it going to break? Is it going to break? And well, certain types of glass are really strong. I mean, there's 4 layers of fiberglass that they used in the spacesuits during the moon landing, and the spaceships are coated with quartz glass and stuff like that to insulate and protect from heat. So, it's yeah, that duality. I think that's a really interesting thing.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
total nerd for all things glass.
yeah, and glass is crazy. I just really love how you tied the plants to them, because you're right, glass is fragile, but yet, I mean, you can have a drinking cup that lasts forever. Don't throw it against or drop it a certain way. And same with a plant. I dug up a raspberry bush, left a hole in it, and sure enough, there's plants growing out of the hole. There must have been, and like that. You said that, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So how long have you actually been on the torch creating glass?
Actually, in like 2 weeks, it'll be 8 years. 8 years since I took my first little bead making class.
Yeah, because I know when I first got on your Instagram, I was like, man, she looks young. Especially then when I get to actually see it in person here, I'm like, man, for how young she looks and the quality that she's banging out here, it's like I gotta meet her. So it's an honor to meet you today, because the quality is fire.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I look younger than I am. I get that all the time. Yeah, so I started blowing glass when I was 19, and I just turned 27. So I am young, but I'm not that young. But yeah, like people always like I got ID'd to take my cousins in a water slide when I turned 25. They were like, "Oh, you can't take these kids in a water slide." I was like, "What the?" They're like, "You need an adult." I was like, "No, dude, I'm the adult."
Right. Well, that's good. That's a good problem to have. So
Yeah, I guess for now it's fucking annoying, but I guess in time I'll probably enjoy it more.
yeah. So you said you went to school and you had some things there. Did you have any mentors that you really latched on, like that Mr. Miyagi?
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as like when I was at Mass Art, I had this woman who worked at the glass studio. Her name's Toby Walters, and she's kind of like my little glass grandma. When I first got started, like she was so sweet and encouraging, and she was just, like she taught at the glass studio, but she was more of a hobbyist. She's a nurse in her full time, but she was so sweet to me and so encouraging, like really helped create this like I just felt really comfortable going in, talking to her. We pick each other's brains, and then when I was at Mass Art, I had a professor who he's a hot glass guy, Christopher Watts, and he's really someone who like definitely pushed me with conceptual thinking for sure. Yeah, he's always like, oh, this looks great, check out this artist, like your work will you would really learn a lot and it would influence your work. And so those two, when I first got started, they definitely made a huge impact on me.
So that was neat. You said that he would even encourage you to go out and look at other artists to just get inspired from them, and just because growth upon growth upon growth.
Yeah, exactly. And because there's I mean, I never like to I don't support like ripping off someone else's work, but I do look at other people's work. There's a lot to like to learn from it and be inspired. People approach things like so many different ways, like all roads lead to Rome kind of. So, someone could do something that's totally different. And maybe that you've been trying that technique and it doesn't work for you, and then someone that shows you a totally different way to approach it, and then that clicks. Yeah, I like I said, I teach a lot of classes, so I'm always trying to think of like different ways that, I don't know, things can like can help out the students, impact the students the way they see it, the way they look at glass.
That's really neat that you teach classes as well. Do you find that teaching those classes has then actually improved your ability as a blower more so than just being on the torch, maybe?
Oh fuck yeah, totally. Like, it's so funny, like there's things to us that like become muscle memory, right? You don't think about like the move that you're making, you just know that you do it, and in your mind like why you have to do it. But then like taking that stuff that's muscle memory and translating it into words to like to a student, I feel like that helps me a lot, because I'm just like thinking about it like even deeper, like how can I explain something super complicated and techy to a person who literally has no baseline, like they just found out today that glass is a liquid when it's hot,
Right.
like.
Right. So you got to figure out the complexities and try to get it to just one, two, three.
Exactly. Yeah. Trying to pare it down, and then also, make it something that like you can literally like easily translate to someone else.
And then by doing that, it just more puts that tool in your belt to where it's just beyond muscle memory. Now it's just even a deeper understanding. And
Oh
that's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, especially too when you're watching like beginners work, and you have like a bird's eye view, and you're like, oh, this person is totally fucking this up, and that can also help me too to be like, okay, I understand like how to word this differently to help them, yeah.
Right. Right. That's neat. Um, so classes, have you taken other classes outside of just the schooling?
Yeah. So when I was at Mass Art, it was mostly hot glass, like furnace work.
Mhm.
So I had never really taken a flame working class. I was mostly self taught for my first couple of years. Like you said, I was watching YouTube videos and shit like that. Um, and then I actually went, I think it was like 2016, I went and took a hollow sculpting class with Robert Mickelson. And so yeah, like he's one of my favorite artists. Like I think he's amazing. Like he's a total glass grandpa. He was also one of the first people that I ever met that was like, here is all the information for you. Like he doesn't hold anything back when he's teaching a class. He's just sharing everything he knows. So that was really cool. So I took a sculpting
So
class at.
you mentioned that. Do you find some teachers will actually hold something back, maybe?
Yeah. I won't name any names, but like when I first started out, I did definitely have an interaction with some people who were cliquey, didn't want to share information with me. I also, the studio that I started out at the time, they didn't have the best reputation. There were some rival glass studios, so it seemed like everybody had beef with the owner. So if you worked there, nobody wanted to fucking help you out, like yeah. So I definitely definitely met some so I've met a lot of nice people along the way, and in the beginning, I definitely met some people who were kind of rude to me, but I didn't let that stop me. But yeah, like then I took the class with Robert, and I was like, wow, like there's really teachers like this who are just, they tell you anything, holds nothing back. And I actually ended up. I took the class 1 year, and then the next year I took this exact same class again, and it's seriously like like it's so good to be in a class, but then sometimes you have to go practice it on your own. But then coming back a year later after practicing all those skills and taking the class again, I like just saw shit that I would have
Right.
never seen before.
It's
Yeah.
like I heard, time ago when you're training people wherever I'm at, you can only train people 10%. Some people can go a little more, some less, but you can only gain that. So if you're teaching somebody or you're learning, the reality is you're only going to gain about 10% what's going on. So you
Yeah.
try to gain the big stuff, go back, figure it. And then next time you can find, like you said, find all the extra things you couldn't see before.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah, that actually, taking those classes, I ended up taking another class with Micah Evans and Stephen Pierce out at Pilchuck. And that's where I met Katie Severance, who she is a professor at down at Salem. If you've heard of SCC, it's a really cool place. It's actually one of the only colleges. It's the only place that you can go in the United States and get a degree in scientific glass technology. And so, yeah, so it's like, it's super techy, super heady shit. But yeah, so Katie, I met her. She is one of the first, female professors in the scientific program. And so she was telling me all about Salem. And so I went down there and I did the scientific glass degree. And, the first semester, I was like with a bunch of people who had never blown glass before. So they're starting at the very beginning, but even so, I learned a bunch of shit because, these people have no idea what's going on. And I'm watching like, this super simple, demo, but it's in a totally different style. Scientific glassworking is a totally different style than like pipe making or artistic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, totally like mind blown and really got like, I really got a lot out. Everybody wants to copy my notebook. It's funny.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's good stuff. Um, where do you get the inspiration and creativity for your glass?
I get it all over. I think, I guess I had sort of, like a rocky childhood. And so I draw like a lot, who didn't, if you're a fucking
Right,
artist,
right.
you know,
That's the
um,
only reason I laughed. I wasn't laughing at you. I was
no.
on the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
train.
Yeah. I figured that you could probably relate to some degree, but yeah. So, yeah. So like I art was always like a creative outlet for me. I've always really liked, like drawing and painting and stuff like that. Never did that much sculpture until I got to college. But yeah, I'm really inspired by sort of kind of like the challenges that people face. I'm inspired by nature. I took a class while I was at Mass Art that actually like totally shifted my like entire art practice. And it was all, the class was all about climate change. So I'm really inspired by that too.
Right on. Nice.
Yeah.
What's your preferred style or technique that you really love to use?
Yeah, definitely sculpting, hollow sculpting. I love. I, I love going from like a cylinder to like, you know, like the pieces you saw, you know, a hollow cylinder becomes like this, you know, voluptuous big sexy lady, or you know, a bird or a turtle or whatever. Like I love that like sort of transformation. That, and then last year I took a class with Rocco, and I've been doing cut and flips, practicing that. That's my like fun free time thing to do. And yeah, that technique it's super challenging, but it's super fun.
Yeah, I seen some of your work on your IG, and that's crazy. And then, you know, that guy Rocco, I got to meet him a couple times, and he is down to earth, super nice, and talented beyond.
No, he's cool as fuck. I love him. He's great. Yeah. And as a teacher, he's super cool. Yeah, he's a very cool dude for sure.
Right on. So if you want to learn to draw, go check out Rocco.
Yep. Yeah, Rocco, if you see this, thanks, man. I really fucking appreciate it.
Have you had any periods in your career where you like had some big shifts, like maybe you were doing just pendants and then you went to pipes, or all of a
Yeah,
sudden you were doing?
absolutely. Yeah. When I first started out, that studio that I worked at, they didn't allow pipe making at all. So you know, I super focused on implosions, like, and like for, you know, maybe like a year and a half, I was just doing implosions, which was cool because actually, I used to collect implosions before I knew what implosions were. You know, back as in high school, I used to collect pendants and pipes and stuff. So I super focused on that technique. But then I started actually, I took this little pipe making study group kind of class over at Fiamma Glass, which is a studio close to me. That's how I got into pipe making. And before that, I had actually been like, I would drive like an hour to one person studio and work for the afternoon, make a bunch of spoons and like crash the kiln and take them home. And then I'd drive like an hour and a half to somebody else's studio. Like it was really like patchwork. I wasn't able to like practice them in the beginning. So then yeah, now more I'm at my own studio, so I can make whatever the fuck I want, which is nice.
But you got to build that, you know, and that's the life thing is. And I bet when you did have to drive, it sucked, but you got to meet other people and maybe grow a little bit from that, I hope.
Yeah, I definitely met some interesting people for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, when I started making pipes, yeah. But yeah, when I started making pipes, too, that the marijuana still was, it was decriminalized, but it hadn't been legalized yet. Like, actually, this whole, I'm from Massachusetts, and the whole sort of like me getting into smoking pot and then becoming a glass blower and a pipe maker and everything, it's all kind of happened in conjunction with decriminalization, medical, and then legalization in my home state. So that's
Nice.
actually, yeah, it's actually made it like a lot easier. A lot of the studios that I used to work at that were strictly no pipe making, now they're starting to allow pipe making and even teaching classes in that too, which is pretty cool. Big
Yeah,
transformation.
it is.
Yeah.
And such a transformation. I remember I started and I go down to Glasscraft to buy glass, and they're like, you don't mention you make pipes in here. They won't sell you glass. And it's like,
Yeah, if you say bong, I remember back when I said, yeah, you can't say bong in the head shop or they'll kick you out. Like, yeah.
yeah, and it was scary because, you know, you got this government entity like, control yourself or we will put you in jail for whatever reasons. And
Yep. So yeah.
um, what's the most your favorite color to work with?
Okay, like that's a tough one. My all-time favorite color, like since I started, has always been amber purple because you know, I think that's a big one for a lot of people. Like I love that color. But actually like greasy glasses colors are like
No doubt.
that's like my ideal color palette. I call it like a cotton candy sunset, like that like rose quartz, the hydro, like all those colors I think are gorgeous. Yeah, that's my ideal color palette. Cotton candy sunset for sure.
I agree. And you mentioned the greasy glass, and I've seen it come around. I'm always scared because been buying glass forever, and it's usually always sucks until they figure it out. But man, I tried greasy, and like you said, it's just it works beautifully. The colors are unique. It's just he's doing a good job.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been buying like color from him for a while, and I really think in the past few years, especially, he's like really stepped it up. He's totally cornering the market for like all those like opalescent colors, kind of. Like in soft glass, like in the hot shop, like you always can find those opalescent colors. I think they're way more common, and not as many color companies have those for Boro. And I feel like since he started making colors like that, now like the other companies are like, oh, I gotta step up, and you see a lot more colors coming out that have that like nice, that milkiness to them. I love that.
And that's the beauty of competition, is it's like, nah, you just did that. I gotta beat you. And while it sucks because it's a battle, in the long
Yeah,
run, it's good. And we're apex predators, so we're born to battle. I mean, I
yeah, no,
imagine.
on capitalism all day long, but you're right in that sense, like that driving the market like that for sure. Like it's definitely it definitely helps out. Healthy competition never hurt nobody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's the most difficult piece you've ever attempted?
That would definitely be that piece that's like the top one right now on my Instagram. It's I also do a lot of plasma lighting. You probably saw that.
Yeah, I'm so
That's
jealous.
yeah, that's something that now that's fucking techie. That yeah, I got into that a couple of years ago, and have really been getting into it the past like year or two. That's a big part of the reason I went down to do the scientific glass program at Salem, was because I wanted to learn, like how they get like drop a coil in there, do different like all the different seals and holders to like for jacketed pieces and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the outer jacket is 95 mil, and there's the sculpted lady on the inside, and she's dewar sealed into the top, and then there's a flower sculpture sealed on top of that. And so the female figure and the flower sculpture have one type of gas. This is my little cat with her tails. The female figure and the flower have one type of gas in it, and it's a low pressure, and it's passively activated by the high pressure krypton gas that's in the jacket. So that was like super super techie. That was like the whole culmination of like the scientific glass degree kind of coming together.
You're a fucking gangster.
Thanks, man. Yeah, dude, that piece, like one of my besties, Squishy Glass, he was like there with me for like the whole way through like designing and fabricating that piece. And yeah, he knows that there were some high stress moments for sure. Like I got the piece in the jacket initially, and then I forget what it was. Oh, I didn't have enough airflow. The holder that I had the female figure in wasn't allowing enough airflow to pass through it. And so once I sealed it in, the pressure in there started to build up, and it was like blowing out,
What?
even though I wanted to do that. So I actually had to cut open the jacket, pull her out, and then make a new one and try again. That piece like gave me so many it was a lot of challenges that I had to work through too. A lot of heartache and headache for sure.
That you created for yourself, all the
Yeah,
stress just so you could whoop its ass and be like
yeah,
champion.
exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is what I do for fun. It's sort of like a masochistic this isn't a commission or anything. It's an idea that's been in my head, and I got to get it out.
I love it. That's gangster. That's so cool. Um, Do you collaborate often?
I try to, yeah. I've been like super busy lately, but yeah, especially when I was down at Salem, I would collaborate. It's so cool to be down there because there are so many flame workers in the area. So we collaborate all the time. We got oh, I wish I had it. You know, the shop collab where like everybody makes something and then one person like puts it all together. Like yeah, I love collaborating. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Um, what's the most amount of time that you spent in a piece? Is it that your biggest, baddest piece, you think?
Yeah, yeah, definitely that one. I mean, like from like the initial idea till like finished, it was like 8 months, I would say, because like was yeah. So I like designed it. I like sculpted, you know, the lady and the flower. I was like, oh, sculpting this is like that's easy for me. I can bang that shit out all day long. But I was like, you know, I always try to like get like a step list. That's another one of the things the scientific last degree taught me is, you know, make a step list, because if you make a step list, then you're less likely to run into like those unexpected problems because you're thinking out the process.
Wow. So if
But yeah,
anybody's watching this, pay attention to what you just said, because that's going to solve a lot of problems throughout your building process.
no, dude, absolutely. And like I'm saying that now, and like like I didn't do it like as good a job as I should have. And it was one of those things where like before I wanted to like, you know, seal her in the glass, I probably asked every single professor down there. There's like 4 or 5 different scientific class professors down there, and I asked each one of them, how would you do this? How would you get this done? And every single person had like a different answer. Yeah, it was stressful, but it was cool because I could take I'd be like, okay, well, Katie gave me this idea, I'm going to use that, and Carl told me to do this, that's going to be definitely super helpful, you know. So like I ended up, you know, taking little aspects of like what everybody told me and combining it into like the final like technique. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I still ran into a lot of unforeseen problems along the way, but it got finished, you know.
Right. It looks like my camera just went out. So you
Oh, I
can't
can.
see me, right?
No, I can't see you, but I can still hear you for sure.
Then that's all that matters, because all the other stuff will put over my face. And I don't know why this happens. It's cameras plugged in and shit. So we'll just continue on as nothing happened.
Yeah, word, word, word. That's cool.
All right.
Yeah, with that piece, it was so funny because actually one of the professors I showed like the sketch to, and then once he saw the final piece, he's like, you know, when you showed me this like little sketch, he was like, what the fuck is this gonna look like? He was like, I thought it was gonna look like shit, but it looks sick now. I was like, thanks, man.
Right. So you might be as good as those professors, because you're able to take all their brains, put it together in a final project that you really made happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely I don't got shit on professors. They're like true OG Gizzlers, but no, definitely they bestowed some of their knowledge onto me, and it's and we're building off of it. So yeah, they're cool.
Nice. Nice. Have you ever competed in any events before?
You know what? I actually haven't. Yeah, I was actually gonna compete in a little glass blowing competition that they were gonna have out in Western Mass, but it got canceled because of COVID. You know, like fucking everything this past year.
Yeah. So, well, maybe you'll get another chance at that, or champs or something like that, and
Yeah,
have fun. Do you like the pressure?
yeah, I'd like to go. I'd love to go to Champs. I'd love to go. I want to go to Melt. You know, that just happened. I'd
We
love to
just
go.
missed that.
Yep. But yeah, I definitely I don't know. I'm sort of like a slow worker, so I don't know how, I mean, I guess I can bust ass when I need to. But you know, a lot of the times I like to like take my time with stuff. Like, you know, that's I one of my friends reposted this great meme the other day that was like, is it because I was working too fast, or is this just a bad batch of color, you know? I try to avoid working too fast sometimes.
No, and that's a big thing about glasses. You got to work slow, but things happen like at a split second.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
I had a friend when I first started out. He's like a super skilled goblet maker. He works in the hot shop, but I think the idea applies. He would always say that when you're working with glass, when you're working slow, you're working smooth, and when you're working smooth, you're working fast. So if you're working smooth, everything's gonna go a lot better. You're not gonna make mistakes, and that in turn speeds up your process.
Right, right. Hell yeah. That's craziness. Um, do you consume yourself cannabis?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I'm actually a medic. Well, my card actually expired, but I'm a medical marijuana patient. Yeah, yeah.
Do you
Um,
prefer the flower, the concentrate, edibles, or do you like the whole plant?
I fuck with everything. I will say like edibles will actually like fuck me up a little bit too much. I used to actually make edibles all the time too. After cooking canna butter so many times, like the smell of edibles, like it doesn't sit right with me. Like even though I like love weed, like
It's a
if
weird smell.
yeah, it's and the aftertaste is it can be weird, so but I do like it, a well-made edible. Like there's actually a woman out here who makes like really really good edibles, like and she combines like fucking everything too with it, so I like her stuff. But yeah, I would say I'm more of a I'm an analog type of smoke. I smoke like flower.
Right on. I like that.
Yeah, I do like to dab though, but yeah, that's just a little strong for me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a flower person as well. You can tell if it was grown nice. Was there a bug problem? There's just so many things the flower can tell you where I don't believe the concentrate. It's like a magic hidden
That's a
something.
really good point too. That's a good point for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. Up here, I would say like the bud coming out of Maine right now, very, very good. So yeah, very
Nice.
lucky over here in Mass. We got good stuff for sure.
Hell yeah. Um, do you have any hobbies outside of glass?
uh no, no, I guess outside of glass, I like to hike. Like I said, I'm a cat lady. When I'm not blowing glass, I'm either out in nature smoking pot or I'm at home with my cats smoking pot. So
So you have found that glass has pretty much consumed you, would you
yeah,
say?
totally. I spend most of my time, I would say, like thinking about glass, or even like when you know, I still draw all the time, but mostly I'm like, oh, I've got to get this idea out, and I'm gonna turn it into something in glass. So yeah,
I wish the rest of the world, I feel so bad when people are like, you work too much or you do this. And it's like, actually, you just haven't found something that you love because it ain't work. Well,
exactly.
it can suck and you'll put yourself through hell creating your projects, but it's a passion. If only everybody had it. What a world. Could you imagine the world we would live in if
I know that like it could be such a beautiful utopia, but yeah, no, I feel like yeah, I mean, of course, like I don't like doing production work, but I do it. I'd rather be making spoons all day long than sitting in a fucking cubicle and toiling away, just another member of the rat race, as my dad would put
yeah.
it.
Do you use any of your own pieces or do you use other people's pieces when you do consume?
Yeah, I would say a mix of both. I've got some really cool pieces that my homies have made. Like when I dab, I actually have this recycler made by my friend Joey Bag of Donuts. Like that's like sort of like my daily driver when I'm dabbing. But then yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff made by friends, and then when I'm smoking my own piece, it's usually like a prototype that I'm testing out, or it's something, yeah, or it's something that I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with this and I can't sell it, or I'm like, damn, I killed this, I can't sell this.
I love it. I love it.
One or the other, nothing in between.
What can we look forward to in the future from you?
Well, I'm working on a bunch of shit right now. some new rig designs. Just dropped a new dabber design that, well, it's not up on my Etsy yet, but it will be soon. And then I'm actually hoping next year, I'm preparing right now. I'm gonna have a solo show with all my work, but it's all my plasma stuff. So I'm gonna be making a bunch of plasma in like the next 6 to 8 months. So you can definitely keep an eye out for that.
Do you know where that show is going to be at yet? Do you have a place yet, or?
Yes, yeah. It is gonna be at the Glass Axis in Columbus, Ohio.
All right, all right. So
Yeah.
we'll try to circle around back there in about 7 or 8 months and see where you're at doing that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll be advertising. I gotta update my website and everything with all the upcoming events and stuff like that.
Right on. Um, do you still find you have the same love and passion today as when you first started?
Yeah, totally, totally. It's different. It's changed a little bit, but it's like I still get super hyped on glass. Always hyped on glass. Like I just, the more I learn about glass and the more like the more I nerd out, I would say. I just, I get like so stoked and I yeah, and but when I was first starting out, it was more of like an awe and a wonder, for this material that I kind of felt like was still going right over my head. But now I have this like, deep understanding and appreciation for it. Like I just think, especially the more I learn about glass, the more I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Like our whole society is actually like dependent on like these few creations in glass, lenses. Like, I mean, I wear glasses to see. So do so many other people, but like developing the lens, so we had the telescope, and that helped us understand our place in the universe. And then people discovering lenses, we wouldn't know about germs if it wasn't for like these lenses that saw this crazy microscope world that is all around us. And then you talk about how glass is used in science, for medical stuff, and every single medicine was developed on glass apparatuses that were made by hand in a factory, probably somewhere in New Jersey. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And even today, with glass being ancient, fiber optics, the thing that's moving all the information through glass.
Absolutely, yeah. Fiber optics, seriously, it's like our whole like internet system, everything is based off this little glass strand that sends light signals. And the glass in your iPhone. Or I was just telling someone the other day about how the glass on your windshield of your car is designed differently than the glass in the side windows. The tempered glass in the windshield stays together when it breaks, but the glass on the side is designed to crumble instead of breaking off into shards. Like there's so many different things with glass that like people just like don't understand at all.
The
and
whole
like,
world is magic, really.
yeah.
Like it really is. Just the windshield. How do they get the curve and and the shape of it? It's
Yep. Yeah, someone asked me the other day, they're like, yeah, so how'd you learn how to do this? And I was like, well, first I spent 7 years at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Like
and it's almost truth to it, because it really is. It seems like it's just magic, and it's just magic. I don't know.
yeah, it's magic, it's alchemy, it's fucking everything. It's sick. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all sorts of science goes into it. It's pretty cool.
Um, do you have any shout outs, or do you want to mention something that maybe we missed or anything like that?
I guess I don't know. I think I shouted out a few people, a couple homies in the midst there. Yeah, no, like I guess everybody down at Salem, like that would be my shout out to you. Yeah, if you want to get into flame working, I recommend going to Salem Community College down in New Jersey for sure. The community there is fucking sick. The tons of insanely skilled glass blowers down there. It's right outside of Philly, which also has a really cool flame working community too. Like that I guess that would be my final shout out. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and that's, I think, super important. Um, and where's the best place to go follow you and see all your new stuff? You mentioned Etsy is a good place. Instagram, what is
Yep.
all good?
Yeah, I slang a lot of glass through Etsy, Instagram. I have a Facebook page, but I'm most active on Instagram for sure. I was on TikTok. I still have a TikTok, but I got banned from TikTok. So I was doing really good on TikTok, and then they said, you broke too many community guidelines violations, and they kind of, slapped me on the wrist.
Well, when
And
you're owned by a communist thing, you've got to follow the communist rule. And
yeah.
it's
It's
crazy.
It's actually so beat because I had gotten flagged a couple times for posting pipes. But the video that got me banned, I was actually making a video about safety because people always ask me all the time. They'll be like, "Oh, don't you burn yourself when you're working?" And I was like, well, I burn myself all the time, but not in the way you think. Like people are always like, you must burn yourself on the torch. I'm like, not really. Like I burn myself on like stupid things that, putting the glass down and forgetting that it's hot. But I use the phrase I burn myself, which is flagged for self-harm. So that's how I know. So it's so fucking dumb. I was so pissed. I was like, yeah, so I actually have to like start over with TikTok. Like after talking to a bunch of people, they're like, yeah, once they ban you, your account's dead. You gotta start over. So like you said, yeah, that's what happens when you got a communist state in charge in charge of everything.
And they're not even real humans. Like even on the non-communist side where we got Facebook and IG, same stuff. They're like, stopping you, and it's not even human beings. If you can't even go talk to somebody and say, hey man, can you talk to me about this? They're just like AI chop.
Yep. Yeah, no, I appealed I so many times, like sent so many appeals and stuff up, and it's like you said, it's all run by AI. I mean, I get it, you can't have like what you'd probably need fucking thousands of people like going through, for every single thing that gets flagged. But yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, and they're definitely starting to crack down. I wish there was a more I wish there was a social media platform that like didn't have, it wasn't dictated by like a crazy fucking algorithm
You mean
or
it was more like America was supposed to be, a freedom of speech, and if you didn't like me, you could tell me you don't like me, and
yep,
and maybe we could argue and figure it out rather than just saying I don't like you,
yep,
cut you
yeah.
off.
That's like a huge problem, I think. I think people try and like blame like the leftists for it, but it's something that happens on the has been happening on the right for a lot longer. I mean, back in the day, someone got canceled. Well, that probably meant that they were going to get executed or killed or, whatever. Like now people get canceled and they get their platform taken away. And I feel like people complaining about that. I'm like, oh, fucking get over it, but yeah, it's nobody can disagree with each other anymore,
That's
and
how you grow. When I say, Rose, I don't like what you've been doing, and you're like, well, I do it because of this, this, and this, and this, and then it opens up your mind like, I never thought of that.
no, I'm totally that mindset. I think even my friends get like pissed off at me because I love to have like a debate. Like
Mhm.
want to debate something, you want to hash it out. If you can do that and not end up screaming at someone, that's like a sign of like maturity, in my
Right,
opinion.
right.
And that's how you can end up like really changing someone's mind. Like you can't change someone's perspective if you don't understand their perspective,
Or it is because we always think we're right, and that's why we get into arguments and stuff. But same thing, I want to argue against you because I want to change your mind, but I also don't want to be fucking wrong. And if we're arguing, I either want to change your mind so you see I'm right, or gosh darn it, make me see the light because I'm obviously wrong. And that's why we're having a disagreement. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And people can't, like, of course no one wants to be wrong. You don't want to realize that like your convictions are like, shit or whatever. But like I also think that like fear of being wrong, like it's okay to be wrong. Like everybody's, if you knew fucking everything, then you know what, like you probably would be unbearable to be around, you know. Like I think no, the more it, you know, the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know anything at all.
Yeah.
You never know everything. And so that's why I think people, you know, especially with all the misinformation out there, you know, like, oh my God, don't even get me started on these like fucking boomers that like see a meme and they're like, oh, it's on the internet, it must be real, you know, like, or even like, you know, on Fox News, like my dad's always like, don't believe everything you see on the internet. And I'm like, all right, well, don't believe everything you see on Fox News. Like it goes both ways, my dog.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is you can't cancel any of it out. You want to say, well, I see this, and then you can just talk shit, and eventually it sifts out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, definitely with all the misinformation. It's a thorny world out there, and then everyone's gets a little touchy, you know. I mean, it's tough times, so I get it, but
it's always been tough. And could you imagine like living in the 1800s? Like,
oh yeah, we're just like a band, like a, you know, bandits could roll through your fucking town and like burn the whole thing down, like, you know.
and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that it's a tough time to be alive, but it's a good time to be alive because we have the tools to we have more tools than ever to challenge our problems as a society, my opinion. So, you know, it's just the problem is we got, you know, people who profit off of other people's suffering, you know. That's a huge issue.
And I think we'll end it with that is, you know, fight the problems, solve the problems, and just keep dealing with, invite the problems and find solutions and keep doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Question everything, you know, make art and keep an open mind. Like those are like the three things I think that I try to continue to do.
I love it. This was a pleasure, Rose. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Like as expected, or maybe as hoped, or I don't know. But I kind of was thinking this girl was going to be pretty amazing from what I seen her doing. And I just had a time of my life in that interview. It was super awesome. It was just awesome. It was cool that she got to be part of our Elev8 Glass Open. Remember, go check this stuff out, elev8glassopen.com. We just got done with stage 1. We got stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 will be finished in 2002 February. So we got a lot of time for this. Go check it out. Be a part of this. It's really awesome. It's a dream come true. And thank you, Rose, for being a part of this. Also want to throw out there really quickly, we need help. We want to get the word of Elev8 Glass Open and all of Elev8 out there. And by doing that, we have Elev8 ambassadors. You can be an Elev8 gent or an Elev8 doll, and with that, you get to go ahead and earn some extra credits. Another really cool thing we got is Elev8 Veterans. It's our 501c3. Check it out, and if you got a little extra cash in your pocket, go throw it that way. We also got some cool packages you can get, and this really helps to get some products or alternative methods out there to some veterans that really helped us out keeping this freedom here. Anyways, Elev8, mind, body, spirit.